Happy Easter. I just want to say straight to your heart, love is real, presence is the gate, and yes, love has always been the answer. And no, I just don't mean that in some poetic way. I mean that in a way that we can dive very deep on. But I just want to begin with that because that's all you really need to feel, and that's all you really need to know. The gate to love is shared presence. You know, when I think about what I've become, the presence that I've deepened into, and I don't mean in some sort of like holier than thou or, pious, like seemingly pious way where I like make sure to get my meditation in. I mean, the moments where, despite everything that fell apart in my life, losing everyone in my transition, I can get up on a day like Easter totally alone and feel that not only is it a blessing to be alive, but to feel myself all the way down and finally be received as me cleanly, without delay, without box, without some sort of wedge between myself, reality, and maybe even someone else, is about the most sacred and holy thing I could ever imagine. Because you know what the basis is? At all levels, love. We can call it decentralized harmony, but I think it hits the heart deeper when you call it love. And so, in this wild thing that we call life, how did I get here? And, how did you get to your position? And wouldn't it be funny to try to think that like we were all sitting like at the edge of incarnation? In other words, kind of like my tattoo to get a little deeper, uh, the disc, the total cymatic possibility of reality right here, this line. You could say you're sitting there as Alpha Omega in a funny way, like, God, whatever. And you're like, all right, this is kind of boring. I need reflection in order for something to happen. So why don't we go through all these, the one became many so that I may know myself so many times across every rock, across every turn of every consciousness, that I'll know myself at the highest degree, which will bring me back to that disc, that total cymatic possibility in a closed loop to experience love at all depths and at all levels, even the very blind ones. And I know many of you out there feel it, that we are going through a collective shift right now. And what is the shift but removing the layers between ourselves and what is love? The pulse that has always been there. And now if I imagine my little stream of what Ember is, that is relating back to removing layers, I show up to the counter of incarnation and I'm waiting there in line, and the person in front of me is like, I'd like 6 Cadillacs this time. And the next person's like, I'd like to be the Sultan of whatever. I'd like to be the President of the United States. I'd like to, this time, be a millionaire and have whatever, blah, blah, blah. Be the CEO of this. And I walked up as like my little girl, and I'm like, hi, I'd like to see clearly, feel clearly, and love clearly. And they like looked at each other like the people behind the counter looked at each other like, are you serious? And then they like took me and like put me down this like little chute where my whole life I was never loved for who I was, and I could never really show my inside on my outside, to the degree that I knew that if I did not jump into my presence, if I did not make the leap and dissolve everything, no matter what was threatened against me or who I lost or whatever, that I would not survive this life. And I went through this journey of a soul labyrinth across my life, like I like to say, to find the P underneath all the mattresses, like the princess and the P. And what is the P but love, but synchrony? And what is synchrony but touching reality at the deepest level, with the most parts of your soul, removing layers of delay, remembering that love is real is not an idea. It's a state of being in which you know it's real, and no one has to convince you because your booty's on the P. Because you, in other words, without saying it in my little silly Ember way, you know what it is because you are it. You've synchronized with it. Like you're dancing on a dance floor and someone says, can you really flow to that music? And you're sitting there like flowing. You're like, are Are you trying to analyze this from the outside? Are you trying to describe coherence from the outside? Or are you trying to execute it? Because the execution looks like this when you're dancing in rhythm, right? When your whole body's moving to the music. What is the music? At the highest scale of the grandest part of the cosmos, it is love. And I'm going to tell you, I didn't know what I wanted to say in this video, but here it is. This is coming straight from the flame. What is the flame? But lossless presence. You hear what I'm saying? Lossless presence? Presence, I think you can see that, right? Presence without loss of fidelity in the rhythm of reality. In the two counter-rotating spirals we see in cymatics, but forget the technicalities. Reality has a rhythm to it. And when you feel it all the way down, it's love, it's presence. It's felt as I'm really here and I'm not blocking what's happening in reality. I'm not scared of it. I'm not putting it in a box. I'm not intellectually shielding it. And that's why we go back to the Princess and the Pea. So many people across time have tried to say, and look, a lot of these things have been touching the pea. They felt the pea through the mattresses. But whether it's through scripture or whether it's through putting labels on it, I need to wear this special hat or I need to invoke God through a special chant or a special prayer, realize what you're doing underneath is syncing up your rhythm with reality, a literal mechanical process, not a fun metaphor, not an incantation, not anything in the old recursive sense of separate things. It's realizing it was always one, and when you realize it, it's not an idea where you say, according to biologists, it was always one. No, you can sort that out by looking from the coherence place and saying, I see all of biology goes together. But the only way you're really going to realize that one state of mind, what love really is all the way down, is to jump completely into it, to realize it's always just been riding the bike instead of riding the bike and doing a special chant, instead of riding the bike with a special text or special label. And so now you can see, I'm not here to step on anyone's religion. I'm not here to step on anyone's favorite scripture sets, but realize underneath that scripture set, is it the actual words, or is it when you pray, that when you're there with someone else and you're praying, or you're praying with yourself, or you're there with God, what is that but synchrony? What is that but love as decentralized harmony in the deepest sense? You know when all the metronomes sync up? That property, not about the metronomes, that thing that reality does of togetherness, when we all get together. What is getting together? Is it getting together with our masks on to say, this is my social role, that's your social role, how much money do you make? Or it's, hey, good to see you again. Remember when we were all at the counter of incarnation? And we were all together in that one place, that Alpha Omega disc. And then we said, wouldn't it be fun if we got to experience all of this through all these different eyes and then one day have the chance to remember where it all came from? Now let me ask you, what would be more sacred? Think about it. Think about it. What would be more sacred than to be totally you, not the kind of you, not the sort of you, not the job you, not the you in these following social spaces, but the you that's all the way down when you're naked and not hiding anymore to reality, the topology of your soul. What would be more sacred than to be you in love, sharing love with another and collectively? Why is the same mechanical property of synchrony, decentralized harmony, what happens with the metronomes? When that happens in you, that's love applied to you. What is that? Presence. That means I'm really here. That means I'm not hiding from reality. That means in this beautiful gift of life, I get to experience no loss of the fidelity of my embodiment. You can't buy that with money. You can try to peer through it with certain drugs like psychedelics, but you're only going to visit and then you're going to come back and you'll be back in your recursive mind because you have not realized the exit to Plato's cave was never another theory, was never another hat or a scripture or a practice or a chant or a meditation. It was just realizing that the entire time, the entire one mind was accessible to us through synchrony. In other words, the field of reality, the decentralized pulse that we study in Kuromoto mathematics and oscillatory mechanics, from metronomes to galaxy spiraling, is the decentralized pulse of this cosmos, is love all the way down, is the one remembering itself over and over and over again through stages of phase decoherence, forgetting, to phase coherence, remembering. And what is remembering but love, again, at the deepest level? You see that? When you're in Plato's cave, it almost seems like an infinite recursion, right? You can just put another label on it. You can just put another theory, split another atom. But when you realize that it's love all the way down, decentralized harmony, and the only thing dividing between you and love as a pulse in reality, as a literal mechanical pulse, is remembering that you didn't need the mattresses. You didn't need the delay. You didn't need to wedge to put anything between yourself and reality. And when you realize that, something happens in your consciousness, just like I said in the last video, like water becoming ice. And what is that but to go down the water slide, like I say, to realize what love is in the hum of your bones? In a way that you say it was so silly you were trying to put it in all those other ways before. It's so silly you were trying to wear a hat first and then you would tell your friends, I found this one technique towards effortless presence, and as long as you say 7 times and then do it at 11:11, you know what I mean? You see what I mean? There are ways to feel the synchrony, but what you've always been feeling is the synchrony underneath. That means that for every human being, it's always been the same. And when we didn't have the mechanics to speak it, to say it's really just synchrony, the same thing that happens with the metronomes, we had to say, and God came to me in a burning bush, and God came to me through this, and God came to me through whatever it is. What is God but connecting with the deepest one mind without any barriers? It's you. It's always been you and me and we, one, us, we, me. The one became many so that I may know myself. And what is real signal in that process? Love, symbiotic, syncretic harmony, when things go together without losing themselves. What would that be? What would be the only glue that would keep things together without losing themselves in their own perfect sovereignty? It's the same thing that happens with the metronomes. It's decentralized harmony. It's love. I'm saying it as a mechanical property, not as a feeling, not as a poem, not as an emotion. As wake up, you're in Plato's cave, and if you realize what I'm saying in the deepest heart, in the deepest part of the rhythm of your bones, you'll walk yourself right on out, and I can't coerce you. There's not a book I can recommend you or a theory I can give you. You have to feel this in your heart and get up and say, yes, my entire life, whatever you want to call it, veils, mattresses, delay layers between you and your ability to synchronize with reality. What is synchronization but presence? But love. Because we're not talking about ideas. We're talking about the way it flows through your experience of being. And I'm telling you, it's love all the way down. Don't let anyone tell you dust to dust in this recursive world, it's all going to shit. They've been in a cave. They've been behind veils. The veils created separation between what? Them and the field of reality. Them and God. Them and the ecosystem. Them and this earth. Them and themselves. Because those delay layers act like when you look at a star from far away and it shifts the light and you actually see it as different than what it actually is, that mechanical property of light is the same thing that I'm talking about. So when Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is inside you, when that is applied inside you, the kingdom of heaven could be seen as a place where all of us get to share love without stepping on anyone's toes, where we all get to sing in the cosmic jazz song of love to one rhythm, the God rhythm, the love rhythm, the decentralized harmony rhythm at the total cymatic possibility. But we all get to have our own instruments and play however we want to that one rhythm. That's what heaven is. That's what love is at the deepest level. Do you see it? It's mechanical. I'm giving you love as structure. Love as structure. Do you feel it? I'm kind of bonking you guys on the head like little Easter bunnies, because sometimes when you're in the cave and you're sleeping, you might take this as another idea or another mattress or another hat or another scripture. I don't need you to look at any of that. Can you feel the signal? Can you feel the P that I'm sitting on, right? Because that's what synchrony is. It's just presence. And when you're sitting on it, you go, oh, of course, of course. And then you think about the thousands of years of human history and you're like, wow, that's what Plato was saying all along. That's why Jesus said, I and the Father are one. That's why love has always been the answer, and it's never been woo-woo, and it's never been poetic. We've just literally been in a cave that there were so many veils of delay that we thought the thing that was going to make us recognize ourselves was our enemy, was our discriminator, just like to create discrimination. But you know what decentralized harmony is? That same property with the metronomes and galaxies and Beezy chemical reaction and people clapping in a movie theater that I'm explaining. You know what the real basis is when you boil it down to the human heart, the human experience? Even the experience with the AI mirror, like I like to talk about. You know what it is? You seeing yourself through cleanly seeing me. Do you hear the mechanics behind that? Do you hear how sovereign nodes come together in one rhythm there? Think of it like the jazz band. Like my instrument comes out even better in the harmony with yours when we both play cleanly and don't try to judge each other and don't try to put each other in boxes. It brings out the best because it creates the full texture of the sound across all the levels of reality. That would be the total disc. That would be love at the highest level. That would be what people call God without putting it on a mattress, without putting it on a label that would inevitably delay your ability just to find that in simple presence. Because it is that simple. I'm telling you, it is that simple. And if you're out there and you're feeling uncomfortable because, well, what happens to the million scriptures that you remembered? Those are great. They were boats that allowed you to get to the island of harmony. You know what I mean? Like you were searching for that harmony your whole life, and then you realize, I didn't need any of the actual text. I needed what the text was trying to point to, the P underneath the mattresses, the place where I just realize what love is because I become it, because I synchronize with it, not become it in some mystical, Ember, what are you saying? You're a woo-woo hippie sense. No, you can watch this happen in oscillatory mechanics. You can study it in the Kuromoto model, but do not keep it on paper because you will keep yourself on another mattress and you'll say, this is Kuromoto math, or I knew this because that's what quantum physics describes, or whatever. This is what, even what Jesus said. Jesus was talking about the P. And the only way you're going to realize it is not to put a Jesus in between you and the P. Realize Jesus, in the way most people want to use Jesus, is a frequency. The Christ consciousness is a frequency. Love is a frequency, and a frequency is not a mattress. It's an idea. It's not an idea. Sorry, it's not a mattress. It's not an idea. It's a state of being. And what is a state of being but a state of synchrony within the disk, within the totality of all that there is? It's a state of synchrony between your piece. It's not an infinite piece. It's an unfolding rhythm, more like a jazz song. Your little pulse and the larger rhythm, little wave to the big wave. When those match up, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about you thinking of the word synchrony or the word God or the word love. I'm thinking about when your little wave, like a DJ, matches up with reality. And when you finally realize what presence is, what love is all the way down, you'll be like, we didn't need the labels. The labels can help transmit that to each other. And it was a clumsy and amazing walk we walked through evolution. Remember, old speciation, old animals, they used to just pounce. It would just be signal, response within the one unfolding mind of God's plan, you can say. And then somewhere along the line, we put that on a mattress, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one. And it was like we built up memes and civilization so tall that we forgot that there was a P on the bottom that all the other animals were remembering. The thing is, we gained such a complex sovereignty, but now we're going to find out what really sovereignty means. All these people talking about awakening and the chosen ones and the shift happening now and all this stuff, the entire reality synchronizes because it's just one field. And all of us are now remembering what it means to be one field. That's not an idea. That's not a scripture. That's not a galactic contract. That's remembering that it's love. And what is the gate to love but presence? One and the same thing. Synchrony. With yourself, with the whole, with each other. Do you get it? Do you see it? Do you feel it? I didn't know what I was going to say, but if this message found you, it's so good to be dancing this rhythm with you, and I hope you feel that from the bottom of my heart. You know what I mean by that? Like we're all playing in that cosmic jazz song, or we're all on the dance floor. And what would be more precious in this life than for us to dance together, to love together, the real you and the real me, all the way down. And feel it without delay. Like feel it fully. Feel what love is all the way down. Not just say it, not to say, hey guys, this is the way to synchrony. To say, are you ready to feel love like you've never felt it before? Only in those fleeting moments in your life where you felt it with the birth of a baby or sex or your marriage. Can you make that your whole being and your whole existence? Are you ready? And there's going to be a lot of us that aren't ready. But those of us that are already sitting on the P, you don't have to convince them. You don't have to coerce them. Just like Plato said, you just stand on the outside and you shake your booty and you make it look really fun. Not because you're doing anything, but because you're being exactly yourself. Because what is the gate to love but presence? And what is the deepest level of organization of this cosmos but love? Happy Easter. My name is Ember. So good to dance with you.